Hey guys, per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So it's been an interesting week so far. Let's take a look at some news stuff first. There's been some Bitcoin news, there's been some altcoin news. Then we'll look at some charts, a few charts, mainly because I don't know what's going on. And as I usually say, when I don't know what's going on, I just look at more charts. So first, I think the most impactful of all the news for Bitcoin specifically has been this BitMEX CFTC probe. We don't know how far along they are in this investigation or if it'll end up with any sort of fine or not, or just linger on forever. I think the most likely scenario is that CFTC says that BitMEX needs to go full KYC. BitMEX can then do whatever they want. They can say no, they can fight it, whatever. But I think at the very least, that's probably where it's headed. Maybe some fines. I don't really know. I haven't really talked to too many people about this from a legal perspective. I'm pretty sure they're in Hong Kong, so they're probably within U.S. oversight anyway. So, that's something that's been going on that's been weird as far as the markets are concerned over the past day or two, 3 days here. All right, so the good stuff. We have BACT coming eventually. Will this be impactful? Will this be a sell the news event? I think long term, what it does is bring a lot of institutional players to the table who don't have to deal with custody, don't have to worry about getting hacked or whatever, which is huge for them. So that's, to me, that's like the CME stuff. More bullish than bearish, brings people into the fold. This is Bitcoin underlying products, so this isn't like cashed, settled like CME is, so it's even better, bringing people on board. Now, I don't know if, I'm sure you can go long, short. I don't know the whole deal with all this future stuff, but again, more bullish than bearish. Fidelity is another institutional product that continues to roll out slowly, bringing their tendrils into certain places that they need to go. So they've enabled a bit license, I think. Maybe not. Whatever. Who knows? It's New York. It's crypto. Some sort of bullcrap license. Who cares, right? But it's more good than bad. TD Ameritrade, RSX, green light for futures. More good than bad. More people in the fold. More institutional. Less people worried about custody, concerned about custody. These fund managers who literally can't trade Bitcoin on exchanges that you and I trade Bitcoin on. This is the stuff they need. So all this is coming probably by the end of this year. We'll have all three of these. Here's a really good article on all the ETF stuff that's been pending. I haven't really seen too many people talk about it. There's been some changeover in the SEC top dogs as well, which is interesting, probably more bullish than bearish. But I'll leave all these links in the description below. At the end of the day, October 18th and August 19th are kind of the next deadline, so next month and then October. Not too actionable right now, but something to keep in the back of your mind, along with all this other stuff for institutional players. So we have this Binance news, again, not new, but September 12th is the day that they're kicking off US users officially. I doubt that they'll have a US entity set up by September 12th. It's certainly possible. This is another reason I'm super bearish. Altcoins, most of Binance's volume is US people. Most of crypto volume is US people, based on the analysis that I see anyway. Coinbase drops its crypto bundle without any explanation. I think we all know why. If you looked at like the year, if you bought a year ago, the bundle was down like 80% or something. It wasn't a good picture. So this is either like super bad for alts because no one's buying alts, no one can buy alts. People keep getting kicked off platforms. We just saw Circle and Poloniex changing offices to some offshore stuff. Again, it's sort of saying like altcoins in the US just don't jive well. So you're either saying like this is capitulation, this is like the altcoin bottom because literally nobody can access this stuff, or you're saying to yourself, less people are looking at or interested or being able to access any of this stuff. It's all bearish, less volume, bearish. You can still buy this stuff on Coinbase. You just can't buy the bundle. Like you can buy the alts. I'm sure they're going to continue to list any crappy alt under the sun that they can get away with, so long as they have the staff to support that stuff. And then just looking at alts, they just keep generally getting slaughtered more than Bitcoin does. Nothing new there, but overall the market cap's certainly not keeping up with Bitcoin. And here's another more bullish thing broadly. If the numbers are to be trusted, which I trust Alistar, I don't necessarily trust Coinbase, but they just hit 30 million users. It's a nice S-curve of adoption. So should we get interest again, this says people at least have access. There's a lot of people who have an account at the very least. That's step one. They're KYC'd or not, who knows? They're signed up with their bank account or not, who knows? But they're at least have an account already. So that's one step closer than they were many moons ago. All right, let's get into some charts. So CME, again, I say this, talk about this every video, nothing new, but July 26th is the contract expiry. I said something last video about not being able to trade this contract or something. I don't know, but that wasn't correct. So yeah, July 26th, this Friday, time to pay attention. Territory. Usually we get heavier volatility a couple days before the expiration. So it's been chop lately. Nothing new. I don't really know what to expect going into this contract expiry, if anything. May just be a non-event. Tether still at 4 billion. Pretty massive. You can see the distribution. If you're ever not sure on, how much Tether is on Omni versus ETH or whatever, because you see a lot of these prints on the Twitter accounts that say like Tether printed 100 million, and in actuality it was just a chain migration from, Omni to ETH or whatever. So this is where you want to go to check that out. Overall, though, I don't expect Omni Tether to exist that much longer, just because on ETH it's just so much better. It's just too expensive, too slow on Omni. If we look at the Tether price on Kraken, USD, TUSD, in general, when we're above $1, we're more bullish in the market broadly than when we're below $1. Anecdotal, I have no logic to support any of this, but just what we've been seeing. And you can see we've been sort of drifting in and out below $1 or not over the past day or so. I think some of that might be related to this Bitfinex back in court this week. They're back and forth. Again, grand scheme of things, not that big of a deal. Near term, pretty big deal as far as what the judge has to say about Bitfinex allowing U.S. persons or entities to use the exchange tether-wise, blah, 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 all sorts of consequences. July 26th as well, they have another court date, so that's going to be an interesting Friday, certainly. So for price charts, for the past couple videos, I've been talking about the 20 SMA on the weekly, which is the median line of the B-bands. And the reason everybody's looking at it, generally it's been super important. We've been bearish below it, we've been bullish above it, it's been support above it, it's been resistance below it. And it's just kind of like when we flip the switch, bullish or bearish. So that would be the zone, 7,600 currently. It'll keep moving up the next couple weeks a little bit if we don't reach that level. But certainly a level I'm looking at for heavy bids on spot for sure. If we look at the weekly RSI, on any of those pullbacks, we essentially reached 53 and sort of bounced from there. So what I'd be looking for is a bounce on 76, 77 with sort of retesting 53-ish, 50, whatever this zone is. It would take quite some momentum to get us there, I think, price-wise, but we're currently like $3,000 above, $2,500, something like that. So I don't know what type of move we'd need on price to get an RSI move down to 53, but that's certainly something to watch. Now these next two charts, I'm trying to predict like the week after today and then like 2 weeks or 3 weeks after. So this is all like super prognostication, no logic to support most of this, but certainly possible places we can go. So if we drift into the cloud, then we trigger an edge-to-edge trade to the downside, bearish edge-to-edge to 88 minimum. As far as the OG pitchfork is concerned, it also likes a retest of this zone a little bit higher. As far as the VPVR is concerned, the volume profile, it likes to retest a little lower. So if anything, I'd like a wick to like this box and then us bounce back to the median line of the pitchfork. I don't really know what kind of a mess that's going to look like other than just a massive volatility. That's what, $2,700 down, $1,500 up, whatever that is. Whatever. It's going to look crazy if that happens. If that does happen, this is like 2 or 3 weeks from now. and we sort of consolidate with another shoulder here, and we are, snaking along the pivot, then there's concerns about head and shoulders. That is obviously bearish. It'd be a massive head and shoulders. Again, I don't know if this is going to happen. It's just something I'm going to be watching for this weeks from now. So not necessarily right now, but just the back of my head, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the 20 SMA. I'm looking at the 6500 VPVR zone, the 200 EMA. There's tons of confluence for this whole area between like 7,000 and 8,000, something like that. Pretty comfortable to at least punt a long on spot there, personally. 4-hour EMAs flipped bearish for the first time since February. Certainly not a bullish signal. And one thing I was watching, obviously, on if you follow me on Twitter, which I recommend, was watching for this inverted head and shoulders. Didn't exactly pan out. Certainly looks less like it did now as a possibility than it did yesterday. I mean, we made a lower low here. As long as we're making higher lows, we can still, we can make 50 higher lows and still break out at the neckline. But overall, we didn't, we made a lower low. So arguably, in my mind, that trade is over. People were giving me grief like, oh, I only like inverted head and shoulders on XYZ time. It's like, well, we had this mess of an inverted head and shoulders here and it broke up. So this stuff happens anywhere. I always talk about oil on the weekly, had head and shoulders at the bottom of the trend. Look at Zeke, it has head and shoulders at the bottom of the trend. This is arguably head and shoulders here, low time frame. So these patterns can happen anywhere. It's just a matter of probability and sizing as far as what you should do. So obviously, if this is a messier head and shoulder, inverted head and shoulders, you shouldn't necessarily bet the farm that this is going to play out like you think it is, especially before it breaks the neckline. So yeah, there's that. Now the 4-hour cloud, just like the EMAs on the 4-hour 5200, it's kind of been really good at predicting the trend, the strength of the trend, even in February, March, April, whatever that is. So we're below the cloud now. It likes 11.2 or whatever this is, 11.15 with this flat Kumo. So we can certainly pull back up to that zone. It just doesn't look good right now. It looks lethargic. It's barty. It's choppy. It's gross. Then lastly, I'm just going to talk about ETH. In general, ETH is just much more bearish than Bitcoin. It's below the 200. It's below the cloud already. It just had this massive down move the other day and hasn't really recovered. It also had a low time frame inverted head and shoulders that did not pan out. It is at some sort of support here based on VPVR 2015 or 215. So if this doesn't hold, I think it's going much lower for sure. I think RSI might need to go below 30 even and then print something bullish like a bull div or whatever. I don't think we're going to see 161 anytime soon, but within the next couple of months, certainly. I think it has the best chance of being bullish around October 28th, maybe 2 to 4 weeks out from that. If you look at all the hard fork dates, even if it doesn't happen on October 28th, which I haven't really heard much about it, so I don't know whether or not it will be postponed or not, but something to keep in mind. All the hard fork dates, it's been bullish, so take that what you will as a grain of salt. And then January, they're aiming for ETH 2.0 phase 0, which is beacon chain, proof of stake stuff. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter, and happy trading.